Let's jump straight into this, guys. We had this match circled on our calendars for months, right? France versus Norway. We all thought we knew exactly how the script was going to play out, a titanic clash of the absolute heavyweights of world football. But as we're going to see in this explainer, that whole narrative got flipped entirely on its head in what has to be one of the most stunning group stage matches we've seen in recent memory.
I mean, just look at this sheer chaos right from the opening whistle. Literally 22 seconds in, Kylian Mbappe smashes a shot off the crossbar. Boom! The entire world is strapped in, totally ready for this grand Mbappe versus Erling Haaland showdown. But then, you glance over at the sidelines, and there's Haaland, sitting on the bench, in his warm-up gear, an unused sub. That highly anticipated superstar duel? Yeah, it vanished before it even started.
So while everyone was waiting for Mbappe to just completely take over the game in Haaland's absence, the player literally nobody was talking about ended up stealing the entire show. A guy who spent almost his whole career operating in Mbappe's massive shadow stepped up and dropped the second fastest World Cup hat-trick in history. 3 goals, 25 minutes. This wasn't Mbappe's story, man. This was Ousmane Dembele's night.
Which brings us to part 1 of our breakdown, the shadow. A forgotten superstar explodes.
Now, we have to mention, France came into this game carrying some real emotional weight. They were playing under assistant Guy Staphen because head coach Didier Deschamps had just lost his mother. It was a heavy atmosphere. But it set the stage perfectly for Dembele. Just look at his resume for a second. It is staggering. He's 29, a Ballon d'Or winner, a Champions League winner, a 2018 World Cup winner. With his incredibly graceful movement and that blistering pace, he is arguably France's second most important attacker. He absolutely should be the main character, but when you play next to Kylian Mbappe, you kind of inevitably lose the spotlight.
But here's the crazy part. Despite all of those massive accolades, Dembele had exactly 0 major tournament goals until this very week. 0. Think about how wild that is for a player of his caliber. But on this night against Norway, yeah, he erased that statistic in literally the most spectacular way imaginable.
Moving on to part 2, the Blitzkrieg. 3 goals in just 25 minutes.
So Norway strategically chose to rest 10 of their guys, including Haaland and Martin Odegaard. And France, they unleashed an absolute onslaught. To wrap your head around the sheer scale of this dominance, check out this number, 7. In just the first 20 minutes, France fired off 7 shots on target. Since they started tracking this stuff back in 1966, that is the most by any team in that time frame of a World Cup match. It was just a relentless wave of pressure. Norway literally didn't know what hit them.
Let's actually break down how those first 2 goals happened, because the similarities and the differences are brilliant. In the 7th minute, Mbappe threads this gorgeous through ball to Dembele, who cuts inside from the right and just smashes a right-footed shot high into the corner past a totally unsighted keeper. Then, fast forward to the 20th minute, it's almost a carbon copy. Mbappe finds him again in a similar spot, Dembele cuts inside again, but this time he uses his left foot to curl a magnificent 20-yard strike into the far corner. Same exact corner targeted, but 2 entirely different flawless techniques.
But football is a game of moments, and Norway actually managed to find a fleeting glimmer of hope. Just 79 seconds after Dembele's second masterpiece, Asgard just drives right past Decode Upamecano and slots a low finish into the bottom corner. Suddenly, it's 2-1. The Norwegian bench goes absolutely crazy, genuinely thinking their second-string lineup just found a lifeline.
Well, Dembele slammed that door shut almost immediately. 32nd minute, Aurelien Tchouameni picks out Dembele in the box, and Dembele shows this insane patience, basically toying with the Norwegian defense before casually finding the bottom corner with another left-footed strike, hat-trick complete, in 32 minutes. That makes it the second fastest World Cup hat-trick of all time, sitting only behind Austria's Eric Probst, who did it in 24 minutes way back in 1954.
All right, part 3, second half, France in complete control.
Honestly, the match was pretty much a wrap by halftime. The second 45 minutes were just an absolute masterclass in how an elite squad neutralizes an opponent. Now, Norway did get one final golden ticket to make things spicy. In the 50th minute, Oscar Bob gets tripped up by a pretty lazy challenge from Theo Hernandez. Penalty to Norway, a real chance to make it 3-2. But Strand Larsen steps up, hits a genuinely poor spot kick, and Mike Maignan saves it without breaking a sweat. And just like that, Norway's absolute last hope evaporated. From there out, France just went into cruise control, managing their minutes. They sensibly subbed off Michael Elise and our hat-trick hero Dembele to keep them fresh for the knockouts. And then, deep into stoppage time, the icing on the cake. Bradley Barcola whips in a cross, and substitute Desiree Doué heads in France's 4th, his first of the tournament. A 4-1 final, 3 wins from 3 matches, a genuinely perfect group stage.
Which leads us into part 4, the knockout round threat. Frightening numbers. When you pull back from the flashy highlights, the underlying stats from this group stage run reveal a threat level that should, quite frankly, terrify the rest of the teams in this tournament. Look at this consistency. 3 games played, and 3 times France has scored at least 3 goals. They have transformed into an unstoppable offensive juggernaut. And get this, scoring 3 or more goals in all 3 group matches, that has never, ever happened to France at a World Cup before. Not once.
And the way this firepower is distributed is just devastating. You've got Mbappe sitting on 4 goals. You've got Dembele sitting on 4 goals. Together, this duo is responsible for 80% of France's tournament goals. Throw in Mbappe's 3 assists, plus Michael Olise chipping in 3 crucial assists of his own, and you are looking at a front line that is firing on literally every single cylinder.
Let's geek out over this for a second, because we really need to contextualize how incredibly rare this is. This current French squad is the very first World Cup team since Poland, all the way back in 1974, to have 2 different players score 4 or more goals in a single group stage. Think about that. You have Mbappe and Dembele, both at the absolute peak of their powers, and they are both heading into the knockout rounds rested, fresh, and hungry for more.
And hey, if you're someone who believes in history repeating itself, here's a rather ominous 28-year parallel for you. The last time France won all 3 group games at a World Cup, 1998, on home soil. And what happened then? Oh right, they went all the way and lifted the trophy. The historical momentum here is heavily, heavily on their side.
So, what comes next? On Tuesday, France packs up and heads to New Jersey to face a 3rd-place qualifier. Meanwhile, down in Dallas, Norway is staring down a massive test against an Ivory Coast squad that just pulled off a dramatic win over Ecuador. Resting Haaland and Odegaard might have made logical sense for group management, but Norway desperately needs their superstars back on the pitch immediately if they have any hope of surviving Tuesday.
But honestly, let's bring the focus right back to France, because this idea right here might be the most frightening realization in world football today. Just think about it. If Kylian Mbappe tweaks an ankle or gets ruled out of a game, France's emergency backup plan is an actual Ballon d'Or winner who just casually dropped 3 goals in 25 minutes. Their depth is completely unparalleled. Which leaves us with this final, chilling question as we pivot to the real tournament. You're looking at a team in historic form, boasting absurd depth, playing totally unified for a coach navigating a personal tragedy, and armed with multiple world-class forwards peaking at the exact right moment. As the knockout rounds begin, is there actually anyone left in this tournament genuinely equipped to stop them? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, guys. I'll catch you for the next breakdown as the knockout stages get underway.